to Jennifer. So my name is Siddharth, but you can call me Sid. I work in the admissions and recruitment team. I have been a student at Bath before. And yeah, good evening, everyone. I will hand over to Jennifer now, but feel free to ask us any questions at any point. You can post the questions in the chat or raise your hand. Yeah. Jennifer, on to you.
Hi there. Small round, a pleasure to have you. So perhaps I should just at the beginning introduce myself too before we sort of get into the details of the degree. So I'm Dr. Jennifer Golan. I'm a senior lecturer in development economics at the University of Bath. I'm the director of studies for the Masters in International Development and all the pathways. So that's why I'm here to speak to you. Before that, I was a lecturer in economics and development economics at the University of Manchester. And maybe of interest for this talk, prior to that, I worked at the World Bank in the poverty reduction unit of the East Asia and Pacific region. So it's a real pleasure to speak to you over there. I have a set of slides and I'm going to share them now, and I'm just going to speak. And as Sid said, please feel free to either interrupt, just speak if you wanted to ask something on the spot, or if you prefer, just post any question you may have into the chat. And Sid kindly agreed to pick them up as we go along. It's a bit difficult for me to see these. Hi. Nice to meet you. Good. So let's get started. Right. Let me organize this a little bit. Lots of pictures here. Here we go. Right. So here we have a short introduction into the university. So this is our university, and what I'm going to talk to you about today are basically 3 items. And as indicated, those who joined a little bit late, please do feel free to ask anything you want to ask as we go along. So I want to talk about why choose the University of Bath. So this is going to be a little bit more general. And then we sort of zoom in to ask the question, why study international development at Bath? So here I'm going to give also a little bit of a teaser of some of the research that our staff do. And then we zoom in into the nitty-gritties, into the details of the Master in International Development and the possible pathways. So why Bath? I'm sure you've been looking around, and now you're here with us and you ask yourself, why should I study at Bath? So why that? Well, the location is unbeatable in many ways. So we are located in the Southern Cotswolds, so it's an area of outstanding beauty. We are also great located in terms of the Southwest, so we are not far from London. This is basically 90 minutes to central London on the train. It's 15 minutes to Bristol, so it's a really neat location. We are if you think about connections, we are just 90 minutes to London, it's 15 minutes, so roughly 2 hours if you want to go to Heathrow. So it's a good location in terms of international connections as well. We are unique in the UK, so you may have heard that the Roman baths are located in Bath, hence the name of the city, which is outstanding. So we are UK's only UNESCO World Heritage Onsen city. There are the Roman baths you can visit, but then there's also spa facilities. If you missed onsen, maybe that's a sort of decent substitute for you, but it's outstanding. We are also the UK's safest university city, according to the Times Higher Education supplement, so 2023. So you're in safe hands. The city is beautiful. We have all these old buildings, and we are located in the middle of a forest up in the university, so it's outstanding, really. And not only that, we are in a top location, we are also consistently ranking very, very well. So across all the 3 sort of UK national rankings in the last year, but also in previous years, we've ranked very, very good. So in short, and especially if you go a little bit more globally, the department where the MSc sits, the Department of Social and Policy Sciences, ranks very well. So this is something, you're in good hands, so to speak. And finally, which is very prestigious, we got the Good University Guide, which is conducted by the Times Higher Education Supplement, allocated as the University of the Year just this year. So super. So do come. It's a good place to be. So why study international development in Bath? So Bath, I hope I managed to convince you a little bit that the city is worth it, that the location is super, that we are doing well. But why international development at Bath? So we are also located within the Southwest International Development Network, which is sort of a network of development organizations, NGOs, businesses, and similar. So it's a big network. We also our students tend, I'm going to talk more about this later as we go along, but our students also tend to do practicum within the network, which is very nice. Importantly, just to say, we host the Center for Development Studies, and our degrees are sort of a little bit nested within it. All this, not all the stuff, but nearly all the stuff that is a member from our department of the Center for Development Study does teach on our master degrees. And also, so it's an interdisciplinary collaborative research center that engages with international development policy and practice. I'm also a member, and many of my colleagues are also members, and many of us teach, and we are doing really cutting edge research that we take into our master in international development. And here I thought, rather than talking, I wanted to share with you a 2-minute video of research that is just being conducted by a colleague of mine, Professor Roy Martonacci, who's actually a co-founder of our master and is also teaching the last decades or so. He has been teaching the core units on our master in international development. And he has been working on something really interesting, which I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to open a new window now and hope this works. So 1 second. So here we go. So this is what he's currently working on, which I wanted to share with you.
We can see the screen. Yeah.
Yes, it super.
Yeah.
So I pass this on, and now I'm going to. It's just a 2-minute slot. Great. So this is sort of the research our staff brings with them to our Master in International Development. So thinking a little bit further about international development and why study at Bath International Development, you may think there have been huge development strides. There has been huge progress in the past decades. So if you think about the UN development goals, the number of people in extreme poverty has halved since the 1990s. We had huge progress in primary education. Enrollment increased to 90%. We had a reduction in gender disparities. Child mortality was halved, and the former president of the World Bank indicated it's the best story in the world. Yet we feel that many things are getting worse. We had just, and we're still in the middle, as you want to think about it, a global pandemic. It is the first time in 20 years that the reduction in poverty, the trend in the reduction in poverty has stagnated and has been increasing. If you're looking at the news, you're well aware that we have several wars, but for the first time in a long time, we have a war just at the footsteps in Europe. Opinions and popular opinions have been taken hold. We're at the brink of a climate disaster. What we are doing in this Master in International Development, we're inviting you to critically reflect on all these sort of stories and narratives of development. We ask ourselves critically, what are the problems in the models of economic progress that facilitate perhaps these tremendous development strides? What are the roles of precarious lives, more inequality? We also question whether this has been sustainable. If you think that environmental degradation has been costing India about 80 billion per year. And most importantly, we have a huge diversity in the voices that are being heard. And we ask ourselves, are people trying to manipulate the story? So this is what we're inviting you to do in our Master in International Development, which brings me straight away to the course structure. So the structure is quite unique in many ways. So we're offering students a huge choice. So I have 4 distinct pathways. There is a generalist Master in International Development, and then there's 3 sort of specialized pathways you could opt for. And each offer them at least 1 optional unit. So this is basically how it looks like. So we have the Master in International Development. There are 2 core units that feed into all of these master programs. This is what we call the DRIT, the Research Methods for International Development, which currently taught by Roy, so the one we just saw the video, and the History and Theory of International Development. So all students on all our master programs do them. And then the specialty pathways have sort of an extra compulsory unit. So for instance, in the Master of International Development with Economics, this is Economics for International Development. In the Master for International Development with Conflict and Humanitarian Action, this is, for example, a conflict and peace building unit, and in the Master of International Development with Social Justice and Sustainability, there are 2 units. We have a social and environmental justice and a sustainability unit. So they have, but the Master in International Development can still sort of opt into these units. They just don't get this specialized title where you have to do these units. I hope this is sort of roughly clear. If not, please do ask. I can talk more about sort of what you have to do and what you don't have to do on the master. Also, perhaps a sort of more unique structure that we offer is that students as a final project can either do a sort of more academic dissertation, which is a long piece of written work, which is roughly, I think, 10,000 words. So I do tend to supervise them as well. Or alternatively, students can opt, all the students on all our pathways can opt for 8-week practicum. So this is equivalent to roughly 300 hours hours of work experience, but you don't get fully away from the writing. You still have to write a report, but this is much less academic and much shorter, which is more of a reflection of the practicum experience, which is sort of a hands-on professional experience in the field. And is less long, less dense, but still you have to engage a little bit with what you learned on your degree, and it will receive a mark. So this is quite neat, and people are very interested in our practicum option. It gives students hands-on experience at NGOs. Students have gone everywhere over the past few years. As you can imagine, it has been a little bit disrupted due to the pandemic. So there was a year when nobody could really go to countries, but it has been picked up again. Students spend generally 8 weeks at a relevant organization. You can also do this sort of more on a more part-time basis as you go along, if you prefer that. And you do write this practicum report. So this is just from the 2021 student cohort. Students did their practicum at a wide range of organizations, at organizations such as the Washing Machine Project, MicroSave, the Alliance for African Women Initiative. So some were going to Ghana with this, for instance, EducAid, going to Tanzania, I think, and UNICEF, amongst others. So they are much broader. Some have been, so you noted that Bristol is not far away from Bath. So some have also been being on placement and development organizations, for instance, in Bristol, where they didn't have to go far. And obviously in the past years with the pandemic, some or many during the past years have done it online as well. Yeah, so this is an example which is rather long, but you have it when you follow this link. So I didn't want to speak it all through, which is the student experience of a practicum of Gavin, who went to do practicum at what's called the Pleasure Project, who did the MSc in International Development with us. So do read if you're interested in sort of the more student perspective on the practicum. There's here a nice example for you if you follow the QR or the link to dig a little bit deeper on the practicum experience. Just to note, which may be interesting for you, it is that while we don't have sort of strict funding for the practicum, if it's not paid by the employer, you can still apply. The Center for Development Study has a Bath, a little scholarship which you can apply for to support you with living expenses and travel. So that's some support we have in that area too. And some students, actually, I should have said that, do their practicum with the Center for Development Studies as well. So they always take, I think, 1 or 2 practicum students from us as well. I already gave sort of a snapshot of the research that our MSc teaching staff do, which is all over the world, really. So for instance, I work on China as well. I work on Uganda. I work on Nigeria. Roy, which you just heard, works on DRC, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria, but it's everywhere. So if you join the staff, we have a huge breadth of countries. We have sort of a specialization in. Which is quite nice. And our students also come from all over the world. So this is the 2023, the graduating cohort. This has students who finished, and they come from everywhere. So the biggest chunk you have here, I can hang on. Haven't taught in a while online. We are back in person completely. So we have here a huge chunk from the UK. But if you look at the other countries, so that is not the clearest map in the world, I'm sorry. But what you see, there is no really strong bunching among students. So we have a representation from all over the place, you name it, from Brazil, Canada, France, Ghana. So it's not that that we have a bunching of course, we have a few UK students, and we are based in the UK, so that's arguably a bit easier for them. But we have a huge variety, and it's even more diverse in this year's cohort. So here we have somebody from Lesotho, for instance, yes, so it's quite a diverse international community, which students really appreciate. One thing I thought was worth mentioning is that we have, on top of having a huge academic support in terms of teaching and in terms of supervision of dissertation or practicum reports, we also have a dedicated complementary, so it's completely free, academic skill sessions that we've built into our degree. These are more about academic writing and argumentation skills, which are developed by the Skills Center, we call them, which is not sort of the academic stuff, but they come in for a 6 times 1 hour session to our course at the beginning in the first semester of the start of the course, and deliver a training session on how to write, how to build arguments, how to convince on essay writing in the UK, which is also perhaps a unique feature. If you don't want to do these, you don't have to. So it's not compulsory. It's just something that students seem to appreciate. It's free, and we build it in there. This academic skills center is very committed to supporting learning of students at the University of Bath, and they also offer one-on-one drop-in session before you have a deadline. You can book in with them to check the writing, the language, and workshops if you wanted to skill up further. So it's quite nice to have their support on top of everything we do. And if you don't need it, you don't have to do this, of course, or you don't want it, you don't have to do this. Right. Employability and career destinations. So where do our students go? They go abroad again. So these are just a few examples. This is Federico, who did the Master in International Development with us, and then went on to work for the UN in Rome. And what he states is that this course has given me specific training that is now helping me to concentrate my attention on what I precisely want to do in my career. Studying at the University of Bath presents a really good opportunity to enrich your knowledge and skills, as well as the possibility to meet international students. So he also highlights what we saw just on the slides, that basically this international enclave we have with our Master in International Development is really enriching. Here we have Tom, who went on to work for an international NGO working on women's health, and who states, I enjoyed the practical analysis of development units of the International Development course. And here the academics were the best bit of the course. They had a genuine interest in my progression into the sector, and they helped create opportunities. So our academics teaching on the International Development Master are extremely committed, which also students seem to appreciate. And Matthew, who worked as an ambassador to the UN and the World Trade Organization, states that my master was a well-rounded course, so it's comprehensive, that gave me the debate and sharing, gave me time for debate and sharing different perspectives. This also helps with the variety of stuff that teaches on our course and the variety of students that we get. For him, this was invaluable. However, it was really the people involved that enriched their experience. So again, appreciating the whole organization and the people who are actually teaching and delivering our master programs. Yeah, our students have been very successful. They have been employed around the world. I couldn't give a comprehensive overview. It's too broad. They have worked for the government, local government, businesses, international NGOs, international institutions. Just to give a few examples, here, the economic development lead for the Department for International Development of the Palestinian program, the humanitarian policy manager at Plan International, and regional product manager at International Alert. And this is just a non-comprehensive list of examples of what you could possibly do with this degree. Now, what you have to do to get in. So what are the entry requirements and opportunities that we offer to you? So you need to meet a certain English language minimum criteria. So you need to have ELTS of 6.5 overall, or alternatively, it cannot be less than 6.0 in all components. So if you don't meet the 6.5, you can still compensate by doing a pre-session course. So I think many universities offer this, and we do too. So it's important to be aware that fear not, we have this course in place to skill you up, so to speak. In terms of academic requirements, it's a 3.0 overall grade point average, but we have some flexibility here as well. So if it's lower, you may still, so don't be discouraged, still apply. We also take, because I deal with admissions in part, we also take into consideration work experience within the sector, for instance. There are scholarship opportunities as well that we can highlight here. So we have a Dean's Award for Academic Excellence and a Global Leadership Award for £5,000 each. So in principle, I don't know if it has happened in practice, but in principle, you could also get both, I think. If that has happened before in practice, I cannot, don't cite me, I don't know. I think it might be unlikely, but I don't know. But there are opportunities out there. Do check if you're interested, please. Next thing, to check the deadlines. You don't want to miss a deadline on these things if you have the potential and the interest in obtaining one of these. Finally, meet us in Tokyo. James, who's the deputy head of student recruitment, will actually be in a few weeks' time in Tokyo himself. And it's a super duper opportunity to follow up with him in person and meet him at the university fair to discuss anything you may want further as well. So just bear that in mind if you're interested and wanted to talk to somebody in person as well, do reach out and meet James in Tokyo. Right. This is all for me. Before closing, I actually wanted to take the opportunity to show you the campus, which is absolutely stunning in the sense that, let me show this here. And we have here an athlete. If you're into sports, so people tell me, it's a fantastic campus. So we have an athletic track here. We have an excellent an outstanding swimming pool here. So if you're into swimming, that's very good. What you can see is it is a campus university. So it's all sort of within reach. And what you may not notice straight away, or what you notice but may not be fully aware, we are set a little bit out of the city, and we are in an outstanding area of natural beauty. So we have a lot of forests. I do enjoy that. A lot of forests around campus, which is what we call National Trust site. So it's a dedicated area from the UK government where they, I think, support as well. So we have a wooden area with absolute stunning views where you can sort of refresh from your studies as well. Yeah, thank you very much. I think there is a question in the chat.
No, there's no question. I just posted a link in the chat for the scholarships if someone was interested.
Thank you very much, Sid. Here, just to keep in touch, what you some relevant contacts if you have further questions to follow up with. They are at the end of the slides. This is all I got really at this point. So I would be keen if you have any questions that please do post them in the chat or speak up as you want. I will stop sharing now the slides.
Yeah. Like Jennifer said, does anyone have any questions at all? It could be related to anything, accommodation, your course, or your experience at Bath. So feel free to ask.
皆様、何かご質問等ございましたら、チャットの方でも構いませんので、ぜひこの機会に聞いていただけますと幸いです。何かご質問はございますか？ 皆様大丈夫ですかね。
Well, if you do have any questions, then reach out to us in the emails provided earlier. I think me or my colleague or Ruri, we will be more than happy to answer your questions.
何かご質問等ございましたら、ぜひSIUK 弊社の方でも構いませんし、バース大学の担当官の方にもぜひお問い合わせいただけますと、お答えできるかなというふうに思います。I think there's nothing for now.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Let us know if there is anything.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining. I know it must be busy. Yeah. Oh, there is some question. Let me pick it up. So there's no name, so I would just let's just set B. So thank you very much for your presentation. I would like to become UN staff or work for an international organization. I was wondering if you have any recommendation for subjects to study. Of course, you should study our degrees. It depends a little bit. So I'm obviously here to speak about our degrees. It depends a little bit what your background is, because I did work for an international organization for 3 years after completing my PhD. Depends a little bit on the background you're having and a little bit of the area you're interested in. So say you're interested in the humanitarian sector, like conflict relief, earthquake alleviation efforts, reconstruction, then I would strongly recommend our Master in International Development with Humanitarian Action. If you're sort of having a bit of an economic background and you're interested in sort of the economic institutions or the economic areas within the international institutions, then I would recommend our economics pathway, for instance, where we have the Master in International Development with Economics. If you just cannot make up your mind and you think you want to keep it a bit broad, maybe, then I think the Master in International Development would be fine. I think you do need a master if you want a career in the big international organizations. And I think a Master in International Development would be a very good choice, especially if you can combine it also with a little bit of work experience before or after. Did that answer all right your question? Yeah, I mean, it depends a bit on the sector. Yeah, exactly. So it depends if you have it already clear, it helps that you specialize, but if you don't have it already clear, you can keep it broader and then perhaps figure out what your interests are. And then tailor your work experience and the choices you make. In our courses, you have optional units. So say you take an optional unit on humanitarianism and you say, but you're on the Master in International Development. And you say, I'm really interested in that, and take the second unit that falls into that category as well. And then you can sort of, in your motivation, when you apply for the job after, you can say sort of, I did specialize in that area. Yeah.
Thank you. そうですね。今、国連で働くにはどうしたら、何のサブジェクトを取るのが良いのかっていう質問をいただいたんですが、基本的にはその興味に沿った、バックグラウンドに沿ったサブジェクトを選んでいただいて、そちらを強化していただいてっていうことが一番道が開けるということでしたね。
That's from me.
皆様、他に何かご質問はございますか？ありがとうございます。So that's all, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I guess we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
Arigatou gozaimasu, everyone, for attending.
ありがとうございます。はい、それでは皆様本日はご参加いただきましてありがとうございました。 ご退出いただいて大丈夫ですので、はい、ありがとうございます。Thank you for your great presentation.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
evening, I should say.
Have a nice day.
Get some
Thank
rest.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.